Jesus, code 60.
Got the total electoral reform, prostitution, euthanasia, abortion, gay rights.
I think that view is called alternative medicine.
You don't have to agree with me at all. It's more fun when you don't. In today's society, we're often too fixated on our physical appearance, our physical bodies. On the other hand, does God expect us to take care of our physical bodies? We'll talk about how to do that coming up on Insight. And welcome to Insight. I'm Paul Arthur. Lines are open, 1-888-816-2545, anywhere in Canada. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Talking about stewarding our physical health. And of course, we live in a world where fast is the main word, isn't it? We like things to be done quickly. We flock to fast food restaurants because we're in a hurry. It's a fast world we live in. That's kind of the norm. We eat out a lot. We have a lot of pre-made frozen meals, microwavable this, microwavable that. Margarine instead of butter, okay? All of those things add up, and of course we also want relief from sickness fast. So we tend to go for the quick fix in medication as well. And I mean, I'm thankful that we have quick relief from pain as well, so don't get me wrong on that hand. But, you know, often I think we forget to take the time to find out what's at the root of the problem, what's causing the pain. You know, why is it there? Yes, we want to get the pain covered up, but is that as far as we go? We want to get to the root of the problem. Now, I want to talk about how to do that here today. Is it our diet? Is it our lack of exercise? Is it possible we have toxins built up in our body over time, whether it's coming from, I mean, you know, the sprays we put on the outside of vegetables and fruits, you know, to keep the bugs off? Well, how much of that do we ingest over a lifetime, and does it have an effect on us? You got to wonder, right? So how do we deal with this? Is alternative medicine something we need to look at? Herbs, homeopathic remedies, that sort of thing. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Do they work? Don't they? Is it just a placebo effect? You know, and why doesn't the government cover any of this stuff? Maybe because it's not scientifically proven. So does that mean it's, you know, kind of a quackery, if you will, you know? Or is it simply because there's not as much money to be made on it? You can't patent the stuff. It's natural. It's pretty hard to patent you know, dandelion root. It grows, you know, on a dandelion. So you can't patent it, so you can't make the money off it, so therefore you don't put the money into it to research it. What do you think? 1-888-816-2545. I'd like to hear your thoughts, your experiences, and if you have any questions, of course, on health-related matters here, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that here with our guest, who's a naturopath today. And by the way, you know, I mean, if we don't take care of our physical bodies, I mean, that is important, because if God has an individual destiny for each one of us to fulfill, if we don't take care of our physical bodies and we die, let's say 10 years before our time, there's 10 years of our destiny that's been robbed because of our own neglect. All right. Get to your calls in a bit here. Right now, Robert Kish is our guest, naturopath and phytotherapist from Calgary. So good to have you with us again, Bob.
Thank you for having me, Paul. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, Bob's been on our program here, I guess, what, a couple of times now?
A couple of times already.
Yeah,
yes,
and Bob has been working on me, trying to get me healthy. He's been saying, come up and see me here. I'll show you what I do here. And so we'll talk about maybe the foot detoxification, which I did this last week here. So very interesting stuff. But listen, you know, God does expect to take us for us to take care of our bodies, right?
He does, yes. And you know, I think, Paul, that with everything that we do, if we can just do some of our choices that we do put into our systems on a daily basis, can make such a difference in where we're going to be physically down the road. Our choices are the things that really puts most of us in trouble, and not knowing what those choices are.
So give us an example. What's the most common thing? I mean, to me, it would be diet, I guess.
It is the food.
Is that the biggest problem primarily?
Most often, the food issues are what we're putting into our system. Like you say, the fast foods, very devitalized food. Even the soil that the crops are grown in today are very devitalized. So supplementation is a big thing for us, and I think through supplementation we can get people back on track a little bit easier and a little bit faster.
So the supplements actually, I guess, replace some of the things we're not getting from
our natural,
from the foods that we're eating.
Exactly, you bet.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Although it would be really helpful, wouldn't it, to be changing our diet as right?
As well, that's right. Yes.
Okay. I know you talk a lot about pH balance, and I guess for example, soil has a pH balance, right? And if the pH balance is out, the crop will either do poorly or it'll do a lot better
Exactly,
if
that's
the
right.
pH is right. Matter of fact, if the pH is off to a certain degree, things won't grow, period.
Exactly, that's right.
They're not able to, either too alkaline or too acidic.
That's
now,
right.
So how does it work with our own physical body then? There's obviously a certain category we need to be in with that balance. And
That's
is it
right.
the food that throws us off, gets the balance off?
If that is the beginning of it that throws everything off, Paul, it does. Our saliva pH should read 7.1 to 7.5. Our urine pH should read 5.5 to 5.8. If we know these two numbers and they are correct, then most often the rest of the system, as the food passes through the digestive tract, will also be in the proper pH for you to utilize and to properly absorb those nutrients that are going into your system.
So if your pH balance is off, even if you're eating, let's say, an organic apple, you're actually not going to get the full benefit of that.
Exactly. It'll actually weaken you, and you will not get the benefit of that apple. That's right. And knowing those numbers are critical. So we have actually people monitoring their pH on a regular basis, and there's 3 numbers that we really look for, and that is even monitoring the stool and what the pH of the stool is, because your pH, when monitoring the saliva pH, basically tells us how a person is dealing with their emotional and stress-related issues. The waste material tells us how well you have chosen and how well your system was in balance as it processes through the system.
So stress. So why is stress so important? It's interesting because I'll be honest. When I'm stressed, let's say if we're having a marriage difficulty, whatever, financial difficulty.
That's right.
Well, you know what? You feel tired. You feel drained.
Exactly.
So you're saying the stress, is it just a mental thing, or does it actually have a physical effect on our body?
It will. And matter of fact, let's say that if your pH, for an example, is right where it's supposed to be, between 7.1 to 7.5, and you go into an emotional stress-related issue, a system, or a thought, your pH will actually drop back down.
It will drop.
It will drop. We have
just
seen
from
people.
The stress.
We have seen people just from the stress.
Okay.
I had a man who had come to me because he had problems with his shoulders. We had worked on his diet, and I basically knew what this man basically ate just about every day. I know this man very well, and he had a problem with his shoulder, and he went to the doctor, and the doctor had said that maybe it's probably your heart. So when he came back to see me, his pH was not where it was always. It was always 7.5 or thereabouts. I said, how come your pH is not 7.5? He says, Bob, for the last month it hasn't been right. And he says, I said, you've done something, you've changed something. And he says, well, I did go to the doctors. And I said, what did he say? He said that the pain in my arm could be a part of my heart issue. I said, well, according to what we have found, that your heart is in actually good shape. The blood pressure is good. Everything looks really, really good. We monitored his blood pressure, tested him using clinical kinesiology to find out where the heart was. Everything was strong. Within 15 minutes, his pH was right up to 7.5, just by removing the stress that he did.
How'd you remove the stress?
Just by testing him to find out that his heart was strong when we used a muscle testing response.
You're saying because he was worried about his heart?
He was worried about his heart.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And
muscle testing, that's a whole other clinical kinesiology. And that is controversial, and I know you do use that. And you've tried it on me, and the goofy thing is, it actually, it works. It has a real effect on a person. There's no 2 ways about it. I guess the question is, and that's where the controversy is, is it a new age approach, or is it biblically linked? And I think the idea is that, your muscle, when you press on a person's arm, and it gets weak, you're actually asking the body a question. Well, your body doesn't have intelligence in one sense, but yet your mind, your spirit, and your body, you're saying, are all intrinsically linked. So
exactly. It's the same as if I were to give you an organic apple to hold. If that organic apple should strengthen everybody, if you go weak with that organic apple, we know that apple will actually weaken you instead of strengthening you. So we have to bring the body chemistry back in balance, give you a product that will make you strong with the apple, and we can give you a nutritional supplement for that. To prove the point, we will give you sugar to hold. Everybody's supposed to go weak with sugar. And those are some of the tests that people can even do at home. Take sugar, hold it in the hand. If you go strong with it...
And you literally won't have the strength. It's a bizarre thing, it really is. So I guess the question is that the body, actually, did God create the body that way, to respond that way, to tell us, communicate to us what's healthy, what's not healthy, where your body's at? On the other hand, I know there's the argument that it could be a new age, what you call it, a spirit actually behind it,
yes.
sort of thing. So I'll invite calls on that as well. I know that's a bit controversial, and I just don't know enough about it to comment authoritatively. But other than the fact that you know, it does work.
Doctors today are actually, there's Dr. Brimhall, Dr. Versendahl, there's about these doctors that are teaching this around the world. They've been working and using this method for close to 45, 50 years. Dr. Brimhall has been doing it for 35 years. And now doctors, it's not only just chiropractors, but doctors, veterinarians, dentists, they're also using the technique to determine what's happening even within what's happening within the mouth.
Okay.
I have dentists today that will send me their patients so that I can tell the dentist what he should put into your mouth and what you should be even injected with.
Yeah, whether you're sensitive to it or not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I have some interesting headlines here. I want to talk about this a little bit because how many of us are, I guess, are affected negatively, health-wise, simply by, let's say, over medication? And I guess, are we too quick to pop a pill? And again, I don't want to get off on the deep end on this one because I'm thankful for some of the pills I've had to take over the years that have really helped me, actually, and they're, you know, pharmaceutical prescriptions that have helped. However, this headline here, for example, from the Lethbridge Herald says, there's more antibiotics than caffeine in the Old Man River water. I mean, they analyze the water that we drink. There's, you know, they find traces of what's in there. There's more antibiotics than caffeine in there. That's scary. And I've got another article here, and this is actually, again, this is not written by a naturopath. This is actually, it's an Associated Press article, and the headline says, Americans are over-medicating. The number of prescriptions has gone up by 2/3, so, you know, 66, 67% over the past decade. 3.5 billion prescriptions per year in the U.S. And the former editor of the New England Journal of Medicine says, we are taking way too many drugs for dubious or exaggerated ailments. So we're, in fact, too quick to pop a pill. Rather than, let's take a route that might take a little longer to get the desired results. But it'll get to the root of the problem, and you know what, maybe you can use some herbs, maybe you can use something natural, maybe it's a diet-related issue, and long-term, we're going to be in much better shape, right?
Absolutely, you betcha, yeah. If we can, again, the choices of what we do, and, you know, prescription medication, you know, in some cases you need to do that. It gets to a point where a person has a serious infection, you've got to go after it very aggressively, and from then, that point on, you then go into some of the other stuff that'll probably bring the body back into balance.
Well, you know, I was going to say, you know, before we get to the phone calls here, I want to ask you about this here, too. You've got a couple of neat contraptions up here. You know, beam me up, Scotty. These are low-level lasers, right, that you use for therapy. These are expensive things. Don't drop that. It's like, you know, it's $20,000 or something. It's literally, it's expensive stuff. But you're saying, laser. Well, what do you do with that?
Laser actually today is probably one of the is a very is being used all over. There's a lot of people that are using it for pain control. This laser.
Pain control. What do you mean, pain?
In actual fact, Paul, I have a book of frequencies for whatever pain, different pain issues that a person may have. We can actually add in the frequencies. This unit has 8 different frequencies that we can put into the into this one and actually help reduce pain. I use it for just about everything. Can you
give a demonstration on that at all?
Yeah, you can turn it on.
So you're saying it's mainly for pain relief?
It's actually, I use it for everything because I also use it for neurology. I rebalance the cranial nerves, the 12 pairs of...
So the cranial nerves, you rebalance them. Somehow the laser, you're saying, adjusts the nerves?
We can actually, what we can do using clinical kinesiology, Paul, is we can test to see if the 12 pairs of cranial nerves are really functioning the way they should be, or the lobes of the brain. With laser, if any of these are disconnected or not functioning properly, we actually can use laser to reestablish communication within the systems themselves. Every time you rotate your head right or left, or you move the eyes to either direction, if we use a muscle testing response and you do go weak, with laser we can reestablish that communication. Okay, so we are affected by everything internally is affected by 12 pairs of cranial nerves, the lobes of the brain. Okay, so we use this for.
But does it work?
Oh yeah, it does. It does. Well, matter of fact, if we find anything that is disconnected with the 12 pairs of cranial nerves, when we use laser, when we retest using a muscle testing response, they do hold strong. Okay, and very seldom do I ever have to do a person the second time.
Okay.
Okay, and the other laser here we use we can identify different issues within the body, whereby we can point the laser to the liver, the pancreas, and if the arm goes weak, there's an issue there that we can use the laser. We have two beams in here. One is violet and the other one is a red beam. And when we turn the red beam together with that, we can actually turn on the healing process within those weakened areas.